Hey everyone, Instructor Brooks here, and in this video, I'm going to answer the age-old question for you with the help of Megan on why students just don't remember stuff after a lecture. And the academics will probably tell you they call this a lack of retention. So, if you're ready to know the answer to this question, let's go. Hey Megan, glad you could be with us. It's your first you've been on camera before, but this is going to be your first real time on camera. And honestly, it's actually my first interview. So I'm a little anxious too and excited for this.
Well, Brooks, it is nerve-wracking, but also great to be here. So thanks for having me. And yeah, nice to meet everybody.
Yeah. I mean, you've been putting a ton of work in behind the scenes, a lot of research, really a lot, in my opinion, what you're doing is really helping drive the philosophy of the teaching methodology of the Instructor Brooks campus and backing it with research. So one of the biggest things that seem to be the biggest complaints that you and I have noticed from talking to instructors, program directors, and students in PTA programs is a lack of retention. Why is this happening, Megan? Why is there such a lack of retention?
Well, I would say the overall issue, to keep it short and sweet, is that instructors and students are using more of a passive approach when it comes to their learning versus the active approach, which is better for long-term retention.
So what would be an example of a passive approach?
Well, from an instructor's point of view, a passive approach would be your standard lecture delivery, which is pretty common, especially in college these days. As far as the student is concerned, a passive approach would be the idea of rereading notes that they've already written or reviewing PowerPoint slides. Those would be the two big ones.
Oh, that sounds like everything every college student does.
Absolutely.
So that sucks. All right, so that's what it is. So why is the passive approach, which has pretty much been the predominant teaching method, especially in higher education since the dawn of American education, why is that so bad?
Well, it's ineffective. I mean, it's bad, but I would more so say it's ineffective just because it leads to what they call an illusion of knowing, which is pretty much a student's belief that because they can recognize familiar information, which of course they can because they've read it or reviewed it multiple times, that leads them to that illusion that they then know that material and then they can then move on. When actually the opposite is true. You actually have to be able to pull that information from your memory without those cues to really prove that you actually know that information for the long term. Okay.
Yeah, I definitely know that, but even before you had brought this to my attention, I was definitely trying to implement strategies that were not so much like what you just recalled, but definitely all of us in education could reduce our passive approach. So let's see here. We talked about why it doesn't work. So okay, we're saying it's ineffective. So how can we change that? What's the alternative to this?
Well, the alternative would be more of that active approach. So I gave the examples for the passive approach. So examples for more of an active approach, let's say from the instructor's point of view, would be to do more role playing in the classroom. So more practical scenarios, things of that nature to get those students up and moving and keep them engaged. And from the student's perspective, and this is why we created the Instructor Brooks campus, is to have these strategies on there, but to use those active learning strategies, one big one being the concept mapping.
Awesome. So, all right, well, obviously the Instructor Brooks campus is really being built around the how to do this, right? I mean, not to let the cat out of the bag on this one, but that's what the whole Instructor Brooks campus is for. So, I guess really the last question I have for you then is, why is it important to implement a more active learning approach?
Well, I would say we've already kind of mentioned the fact that it leads to more long-term retention, but the other two big ones would be that it improves overall problem solving and critical thinking skills, which is another big issue that we've heard from other instructors, program directors. And it also allows for an overall collaboration, not just student to student, but student to instructor, which is really huge in the physical therapy field, especially because there is a lot of collaboration required in the field itself.
I think that last part there about collaboration is an excellent point, because I work with my students a lot on ground. And basic communicating between each other. So, and a lot of test questions, I mean, there are test questions even about like the healthcare team that you might collaborate with outside of your discipline. So that makes total sense that if you can't even collaborate amongst people in the same discipline, how are you going to collaborate amongst other disciplines? So yeah, that seems to be not only a better way to teach, but also, honestly, let's just say more practical, more functional, for what it's really going to be like in the real world. So
absolutely
awesome. Well, thanks, Megan, for your insight. That was awesome.
My pleasure.
Awesome. Thank you so much. If you're watching this video and you're a student and you want to have and learn more of these active strategies and actually have lessons with active strategies in it, well, hey, that's what I'm working on. You want to become a member of the Instructor Brooks campus on YouTube. And if you're an instructor or program director, you can do the same thing. Become a member, connect with me, and maybe we can talk about how we can try to implement this on a larger scale. So like I said, hey, if you're interested in this stuff, make sure you become a member of the Instructor Brooks campus on YouTube. And also you can check out the Instructor Brooks website at www.instructorbrooks.com. Catch you in the next video.